You know, Zoe Lynn has such an impressive resume. I couldn't fit it all on there, and I had to squeeze all this in there. You know, she's LQA manager here. That job is not open, and she's got 17 years of experience in our favorite initials, and she's previously at SDL, language specialist for traditional Chinese at eBay. Common Sense Advisory gave a talk, explained how this market is the same size as Scandinavia with the same economic clout and so on, and you shouldn't dismiss it. And she was G11N vendor and program manager at PayPal before going back. And most importantly, guess where she went to school? Yay. Oh, I should change this URL too. This broke. But anyway. So except for that, I think there were no other typos because Roger checks everything I do. All right. So thank you all for coming. And thank you again to eBay for hosting and to Zoe for sharing. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming here. My name is Zoe Lin. I joined eBay 3 years ago as an LQA manager. Today I'm here to don't play with the microphone. Today I'm here to share with you my experience of setting up the team and then also talk a little bit about what we have been doing in the past 3 years. And I'm not sure how familiar with you are with eBay. So to begin, I would like to provide some context about the eBay and then the L10N team and then how we fit into the whole picture. So as you can see here, the entire eBay is made up with 3 platforms: desktop web, and mWeb, and native, aka mobile web. And then the features here in the back, it's all the features we support for the entire eBay site. Let me go. And our LQA team support the translation, engineering, and program management for all the translation work for those features for the entire eBay. Oh, also, the L10N team, it's very important. Our L10N team has engineering, development, program management, language specialist, where I started, and LQA teams. So the entire L10N team has all those 4 main the main teams. Now I'm going to talk more about the LQA. Currently, we have 4 teams working together in different parts of the world. We have a core team, linguistic testing team, and testing automation platform development, and then the support team. The core team is located in San Jose here. Our main responsibility is to support the entire LQA work. And then as for the team in Cambridge, which is our testing team, they support the linguistic testing of the 14 languages that eBay currently supports. We also have a Beijing team, which is our development team. They do all the development work for the automation and related to tools and related to the back-end functionalities of the LQA. And last but not least, we have a support team in Estonia. They provide all the supports for the testing team as well as the LQA core team here, and also sometimes to the development team in Beijing. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through the LQA setup in 3 phases. First, setting up the LQA team. Second, the challenges of the manual processing. Third, the automation. So the phase 1 focuses on the problems we need to solve by setting up the LQA team. The second one focused on the manual testings, and then what we have been doing using the manual step to walk through all the entire LQA process. The third one is the automation and the dashboard, how we started creating the automation, and then what is the dashboard fit into the whole picture. Okay. So first, I'm going to walk you through that what we were trying to solve by setting up the LQA team, and then how we started it. There was no LQA team, and at the first, long time ago, we had an LQA team, but it got dissolved over several reorgs. And our L10 team has been doing LQA on and off only for the important features or high visibility projects or site launches. And then the reason we couldn't do LQA constantly or regularly is because we have limited testing resources. So that's the number one challenge we had. The second one is we don't have a unified or stable testing environment. Since we don't have internal resources, so we need to work with external vendors to work on the LQA. But without a platform or infrastructure or testing environment to allow third-party vendors to do LQA, that it's very difficult to set up the team. So that was the second challenge. And then the third one is, since we have to work with so many different domain teams, I call them domain teams. Actually, they are the feature teams or domain teams. I'm just going to use these two terms alternatively. They are all agile development teams. They have their own way of doing the testing. They might use a wiki page to create user story. They might use JIRA to do this. And then the engineers prefer to do things this way. Some engineers prefer to do things that way. So it's very difficult to create process which will have like one size fits all or close to one size fits all to support the defined process. So that's the challenges we were facing. So to solve those issues, first, we onboarded a language service provider, set up the testing team, hire the testers, and they could do the testing for us. Instead of having our in-house language specialist, which they had different roles and responsibility, they couldn't do the support in a very constant way. And then the second is to hire LQA leads to manage LQA projects. In the past, the LQA projects were managed by our project managers or program managers. So that one addressed the limited resources issue. The second one is the infrastructure issue we had. We removed the X-stage dependency. X-stage means external staging environment. So eBay wanted to create a staging environment which will allow third-party vendors to have access to do the testing through firewall. But that wasn't a successful approach, so that one was abolished. And then to overcome that issue, we work with our IT and information security team, and we onboard our vendors through we call it 3PP portal, and we set up we passed all the information security policy requirements, and then we set them up through the firewall and then go into our internal tools and systems. So that's how we could have work with a third-party vendor by doing the linguistic testing, working with us. And then the third one is to define the LQA process and define bug definitions and priorities, and then standardize testing information and create LQA JIRA Kanban boards. I'm going to focus more on these three because the first one is the resources, people. The second one is infrastructure environment. So that has to be a prerequisite. If you can set this up, that won't be any big problem to set up a LQA team. But the third one, which is a very important one, is the process. because without a sound or sustainable process, there's no way we can utilize the current manual process to automate them and or to streamline them. So I'm going to focus more on the third one here. So this is our standard LQA process. So first, we define what is LQA project. And then second, when the project gets created, we call them an open project. So it's a project needs to be assigned, needs to be worked on. So that we call it an open project. Second phase, and then it's also a requirement gathering phase. Second, we do this, we say it's a scope. So when we do the scoping, we create baseline, we do screenshot taking, and then we make sure that we have all the necessary information there. So we call it scope. In progress, it means it goes through the testing. We create all the screenshots for the testers. We send them for the testing, and then we get feedbacks from our language specialists and then the international content managers. So they all work together to complete the linguistic quality verification cycle. And then the last one is the verification. We find bugs, then we fix them, and we regress, and then verify, and then we close, and then the entire LQA project is closed. So this is our standard process of a LQA project. By doing that, by defining an LQA process, it allows us to make sure that all the LQA projects fit into this release cycle. Then we can manage that more effectively. Otherwise, if people do project this way, some people do project that way, it wouldn't work. So defining a process is very, very important, and it's the most important step to begin with. Second, we also work with stakeholders to define what are the bugs, what are the severity of the bugs, and then what are the definition of the bugs. Because there will be so many people working on the bugs, working on the LQA project. If we don't have an agreed standard how to file bugs, how to assign bugs, people are going to prioritize bugs in different way based on their personal preference, then that's not going to work. So in order to make sure that we provide good data about our LQA bugs and what kind of quality improvements we have done for the eBay users, we have to have a standardized bugs definitions and then the priorities. So this is what we have here. So currently we have 3 types of bugs. First one is the linguistics, which is what we are focusing on to fix. And then the second one is functionality. And then the third one is internationalizations. Although we do language QA, but language and the functionality are 2 sides of a coin. We cannot do linguistic QA without the functional QA. So a lot of time we still find functional issues and then internationalization issues. And then first one is our JIRA Kanban board. We used to use emails, Excel sheet, wiki page, maybe phone call or text to manage projects. So we have all the LQA information in different places. And then you know how difficult it is to track projects in your emails. You have to dig through your email box, you have to flag them. Sometimes you forget and then you couldn't find where your project status were. So in order to have all the LQA information in centralized place, I look into many different internal tools, and later we decide, one of the internal tools called JIRA will be the best platform for us to set up a LQA project management place. So this is how our JIRA Kanban board looks like. So it's the same as the process I just mentioned. The first one is the open on the side, and second one is in scope, in progress, verification, and close. So by having all the projects managed in Kanban board, we will be able to see how many current open projects we have, so we can predict what is going to be in the pipeline soon. And then the scope, projects are about to start, and in progress verification. So this way we can manage our projects in a very streamlined and also give us the overview on the current project status and then the workload of the current LQA team. Okay, so now why automate? It looks like we have a good system, right? Everything seems working fine, don't you think? We have a system set up, we have a team set up, we removed the obstacle of getting access to our firewall, and then we can manage our projects very effectively and efficiently, and then we have everything in a glance. So why automate? Why? Do you know? Huh? Any? Faster? Yeah? Yes, yes, all of those. So about 2 years ago, I have a chance to take screenshots because that's how we do LQA. We take screenshots and then we take the source, we take the target, and then we put them in a folder or G drive, and then we send it to our testers to review. And then they file bugs in JIRA, and then we verify, and then we fix, and then we close the project. So it works well. Actually, it works well. And until 2 years ago, 2 years ago, I had a chance to take screenshots. And then I was taking screenshots for a LQA project. So I started taking screenshots. I took the English as the baseline, and then I took the French. And I took screenshots on my device, and I copied them, paste them, and then put them in a folder, and then upload them. And then after I finished one language, I realized I need to do it for 10 more languages. And then that project has 15 screenshots, and I only took 30. And I realized this is not sustainable, and it's not scalable, and it's very time-consuming. So I have the idea of maybe we need to automate this. But that was my experience. And then I know that I cannot make important decisions based on my personal experience because I have limited experience as an LQA lead. And maybe I was being too slow. Who knows? I wasn't taking screenshots fast enough. So, so to make sure that I make the right decision, and then I approach that in a very objective way, not based on my personal experience. I asked my leads so this is why we couldn't continue to do the manual testing. I asked my leads to provide me a list of the tasks they do in the entire LQA life cycle. So we have the scoping, we have preparation, progress, and then they list all the tasks they have to do, and then give them the percentage of the time they allocated to each task. So it turns out that our leads spend about 45% of their total time to do screenshot taking related activities. So you can see that in the highlighted area here. So it confirms my thought how time-consuming it was to take all these screenshots. And then that's why we needed to automate those. Why we don't take screenshots manually, why we don't repeat the task over and over again, those mundane repetition. I believe we need to spend our time in a more meaningful and impactful work. If we do highly repetitive, how would you say that word? Repetitive work. Yeah, repetitive work. We lose track of what are important things in our work because we will be doing copy and pasting, or we were just doing the same thing over and over again, and then lose the whole big picture of what are the important things and what are the important tasks we can make sure that the team we are working with will be successful or play an important role or playing an important, and make sure the team can be supported by us and then be successful. So after that, I make a proposal, and then I receive a budget to set up an automated system for screenshot taking. And then that also led to the dashboard, and then many more automated workflows. So that's what we have for why we wanted to do automation and how it got started. So any questions so far before I move on? Yes?
So do you use any kind of a tool to take screenshots, or it's in-house tool?
You mean in the past or now? We built a testing execution platform, and then we use Jenkins, and then we use all the internal systems and setups to take screenshots automatically. Yeah.
Need to give the microphone to people when they ask questions.
So the question was, do we use any tool to take screenshots? And currently we use our internal tools because it was built based on C-Lion, and we have a testing execution platform which takes screenshots. And it also connects with all our network tools and systems. Okay. Here is our road to automation. So I got the budget. I sent a proposal, and I got approved, and then I got a budget. So the first one is we did a request for proposal, also called ROI, or not ROI, the RFP or RFI, request for proposal or request for information. So we did that, and then after that we selected a vendor, and then the vendor sent 2 engineers to the company, to our team, and we started the investigation and requirement gathering phase. And then after that part is done, we set up a testing execution platform and an infrastructure to be able to connect to our internal systems and then start taking, so we will be able to take screenshots and also use our internal hardware and VMs to process all those informations. And then the fourth one is, which is the current phase, we have a dashboard, and then we also automate a lot of workflows and steps to make the automated process more effective and then more productive. So here is the dashboard look like. So currently our dashboard has 4 functionalities. The first one is reports. The second one is test results. And then we also have a review pages and bugs. So that's how our dashboard look like. I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you a demo of our actual dashboard. Remember this slide? These are our steps to run an end-to-end LQA project. So now the scope, in progress, and verification are all built into our dashboard here. It's all in here. So this is just to give you a memory refresh. So I'm going to switch to the dashboard. So this is how our actual dashboard looks like. Let's go to the report. So this is how our current LQA projects. We have now 34 open, 6 not LQA required, and this is the status of our current LQA projects we have. But I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to start with our review page. Remember, we needed to take screenshot manually on our devices and then copy and paste. But now we don't have to do that anymore. So how it happened is once we have the project in scope, and then we send it to our development team or automation team in Beijing, or some people here in San Jose, they will be able to script the test cases. And then once the test case has been scripted, we can run them in this tool or in this platform. We can run one test case, or we can run all test cases together. And then once the test case is run, I click here. Can you see? I click here, and then I'm not going to run it. But this has been run. And then once, in the past, it takes many, many hours to generate screenshots for all the languages. Now with the dashboard and then the automated testing execution platform, it takes a few minutes to generate all those screenshots. So this is how it looks like. So these are the screenshots which has been generated automatically. And here we can, because we only test updated or new content, not all the contents. We don't test an entire regression. We only test updated and new contents. So in order to pick what screenshots needs to be reviewed, we do this. We do add. We can pick what screenshots we wanted to review by clicking add. And then once this is done, we go to review page. The screenshots we have picked, it's all here. And then in this view, our testers will be able to go there and then to take a look if there are any linguistic issues or functional or internationalization issues. And then the highlight in red are the testing scope, within testing scope. And then the SID is our stream ID, which shows the step to reproduce this string. And then here, the LQA comments is coming from our tester. And then this one failed. And then to review, I click this. So I'm just going to show you some functionality our dashboard has. So if I'm a tester, I find there are some linguistic issues. I need to file. I just circle that. I do this. It means I need to file a bug here. And then if I find more, I circle that more. If I make mistakes, and then to file a bug, I click add comment. So as you can see here, all the testing information has been automatically transferred to this view. And this view is connected with our JIRA. So instead of going to our JIRA to file a bug, with this functionality, we will be able to file a bug directly from here. And all I have to do is fill out information. Bug type, select if it's functional, select severity, and then provide the project name, and then project information as a datum, and then I'll be able to create a project. I'm not going to create a project now. So that's how it goes. And then all the information I provided, and then once I click create, all the information will be transferred to our JIRA. And then we will be able to see all the bugs filed against this project in the JIRA view. So I'm going to take you there, and then we can take a look. So in this view here, this shows the project, not the one I just created, but it's all bugs we filed previously. We have a very high security, so whatever we need to enter, any tools we need to enter, we have to have a PIN ID.
Is it okay that we see?
Oh, of course. Whatever happens at Orchard stays in Orchard. So this is a bug we it was previously filed. So that's how it goes. So now the platform here, or the dashboard, is a one-stop shop for all the LQA work. We don't have to go to email, we don't have to go to JIRA, we don't have to go to Wiki to get all the information or to proceed to the next step. Instead, all the information needed will be transferred to here and then all connected to here instead of going to different places. And then another one here. So this is how it looks like. So any questions about the review page? Just questions that prevent you from understanding what I'm going to say next. Sure.
Just a second.
How you pick what to review?
It's based on the test case.
But how test case is initiated? Like, do you review actually each page you create out there, or there is some issue and then you investigate the issue? Is there any teams who initiate the possible issue on the page, or just through all the content you go and do review, regardless whether you know is something there or?
Okay. A LQA project starts with translation. So we work on content that just has been translated through our L10N hub. So the process is we have domain teams, they are the feature teams. When they have any new content needs to be translated, they will submit those new strings or new content through our L10N hub. And then we will pick up those information from L10N hub. And we only test whatever has been newly translated. And then that's where you see the circle here. So the circle shows that those are the new translations. And then these are the testing scope. So that's how we know what needs to be tested. Okay, and then here it's our bugs page. So for that project, all the bugs filed against this project will be all here. So that's how we organize all the bugs. Okay, so, and the test result I just show you here is how we do the screenshot generation in an automatic way. And last not least is the reports. This is the feature or the function I used most often. So in this view, I can see in the past year how many LQA projects has been requested, and then how many of them has been completed. I like this view because it shows the information by month. So the blue shows completed LQA projects at any given month. The blue is completed. The green one shows it's been requested. So that's how I can track the projects. The importance of this is we have limited resources to do testing, but currently we don't have a visibility knowing what is coming next month or the next week even. But having the data will help us to understand the trend and understand if we need to plan our resources accordingly. Data sometimes doesn't really give us ways to solve issues or ways to look into the futures, but it provides us information to do planning and maybe to understand the history of the demands in the past. So in a way, data help us to make better decisions and then also help us to know more about the whole picture of the LQA.
I need to pass the microphone down. Oh, here, let me just run through the camera. There you go.
Hi, I wonder why you selected two different graph types, one line graph and then bar graph for the completed projects. It seems to me like the volume under both graphs would show kind of a whatever surplus or just wondering.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Okay, I was wondering because you could either have selected a line graph for the requested and a line graph for the completed, but instead you chose a line graph for the requested
the design.
and a bar graph for the completed.
Okay. If I switch that around.
Or if you had them both as lines, then perhaps the volume under both would translate how much is still in the backlog.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that into consideration. Thank you. Good suggestion.
That has raised many more questions, apparently. Here we go.
Hi, so I just wonder why there are some of the month, for example, 2017 October, the completed project is more than requested. So I'm just curious about the number.
Sure. The reason is the end-to-end testing or LQA sometimes lasts 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, or a month. So when a project is requested in the month of June, it doesn't mean it will end or completed in June. It might carry out to July and sometimes even August. So that's why the number of projects requested, it's not equals to the number of projects completed. So that's the reason.
Over here.
Hi, you mentioned just now that only the newly translated content will be tested, and those will be circled, right? And I wonder who is doing that job, and is that automated, or there's someone manually circle everything that needs to be tested?
Currently, we have to use when we create a baseline in the English, we circle that in English. But once it has been identified manually, it will be automatically carried out to all the different languages. So we only have to do it once, and then it will be done in automatic way. Any other question?
Over here.
Oh, okay.
You say something about the cost for scripting and how long that takes. And I assume if you're in an agile environment that the screens are changing all the time, so the scripting has to occur continually rather than just in the beginning?
Yes, yes. We always make updates because whenever there is a new feature, it means, or updates in a test case or in a test case, it means we have to update our script accordingly in order to run the most updated screenshots for the testing.
but how costly or how hard is it to write the scripts to run all of the screens? Because that's the trade-off you're making is more expensive engineer to do scripting versus relatively cheaper manual testing for producing the screens.
Yes. It depends on the complexity of updates. Sometimes it's minor updates, so we just need to update a line or 2 lines of code. Sometimes can be a complete rewrite of a user story or a feature, and in that case, we will have to do a complete makeover of the script. But thinking about if we need to do the same work for 10 languages versus 20 versus 30, the effort we put up front, it definitely worth the longevity of the scripting we have to produce at the beginning. So that's that's a trade-off, because we cannot continue to grow the team because we needed to increase the number of the languages eBay support. Without doing the automation, it means we have to take screenshots 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, because the number of the languages we continue to grow. So automation will help us to be more scalable, and then also consider time to market, and then not impacting too much of the cost. Any more questions?
Hi, one more question. So at first you showed us how you label each screenshot with the type of bug that existed in each screenshot. Is there a way in the system where the specific bugs of the different types of issues are sent to the right person or right team that can fix that issue? Yes. Or does someone have to actually manually send the different types of bugs to the different teams?
So let's take a look at the dashboard again here. So the review page here. So when I wanted to file a bug, I fill all the informations and then put assignee. So this is where I can assign this bug to a specific person. And then it's connected with our JIRA. So whatever information we provided here will be transferred to JIRA automatically and then create a bug. So it creates a good bug, not just a bug with all kinds of missing information. It's a good bug. We will file through the dashboard.
Maybe if I can add to that, when these LQA projects get set up, we work with the team. So that so we have a JIRA. All we need to do is make sure that it gets into the right JIRA, and the team will do their own triaging and fixing. So we don't have to know anybody in the team for that to happen.
Yes?
Yeah, there's one more question. Just now you mentioned that data help you a lot in preventing things and see the trends. So can you give us some more specific examples that how the data helped you and what trends did you see in the data?
Okay. So for example here, our domain teams or our feature teams rely on us to support their LQA needs. And we cannot tell them, hey, we don't have enough people, we cannot take the project now, so can you come back 3 days later or next week? We cannot do that. So now, if we take a look at this graph here, let me go a bit further. Okay, so let's see here. In January 2017, we have 35 requested. A year later, we have 68. And then you can see the number of the project requested grow double or triple. This case, it means we cannot just say, I want to take some vacation. It just, we have to plan resources. We have to tell our testing teams that we see the trend, the projects are continue to grow. So we have to make sure that whoever are taking vacations or we have to make sure the backups will be in place, because looking at the numbers, we know that it's not going to drop anytime soon. So we have to have the team on all hand on deck to make sure that whenever there are more projects coming in, we have enough people to support the work that's needed. So that's what I mean, that by looking at the data, we will be able to plan our resources and then to better prepare the team for the work. So we are at the record high in March. And since I mentioned the time, each project has its duration. When it's requested in March, it means very likely we are still working on that. And then before we can finish those projects, when there are more projects coming in, then we have to put more people to support the work.
I have a question about this. When you have this bug screenshot and a bug inserted and somebody's going to take care of that, how they are going to locate how to fix that problem? Because let's say that there is an issue in the translation, you only get the screenshot. How are you going to locate the resource string that needs to be fixed or source code that needs to be fixed?
Okay, so here, let's take a look at the bug. So a lot of issues are translation issues.
Yeah, most of them.
And we have our translations are all managed by SDL Word Server. And then by looking at the screenshots, our testers will be able to locate where this segments or stream is located.
Yeah, but it has to be the person who knows this application, because you only see the screenshot. The developer can only pinpoint, but anybody else, it's pretty hard to pinpoint where is the string.
Our testers are trained by our in-house language specialist how to identify the segments or the strings in Word Server. And then we also have steps to reproduce to help them to see the context. And there are times when they are like very, very short sentence or just words, which is difficult to locate where is the exactly stream needs to be fixed. Our tester will ask our in-house language specialist, and if they cannot be sure, then we ask our engineer for help.
Okay.
Yeah. But those situations doesn't happen often. Most of the time, I would say 95%, they will be able to locate the strings easily in Word Server.
It also depends, like for mobile, for native apps, you get one big strings file. So if you're just looking, and the string IDs actually get injected for certain content types in the bug, so it's easy to find.
Any more question? No? Okay. So let's go back to the report page. Okay. We were on the LQA project reports. So here we can see, we can select the duration. I wanted to look at the report. I can select if I wanted to see them on quarterly basis, monthly basis, or weekly basis. And I can also select if I wanted to see the LQA project as individual project, or I wanted to see them by languages. And last is currently we support 3 platforms. So I can see how many projects we have for our native app, and how many projects we have for our mWeb. So those information can be filtered and then viewed in this way. And then this view here, it shows all the active bugs filed against each domain teams, all the feature teams. So I call it a wall of shame because those bugs are open, or we can select bugs that were closed. So it takes a while.
So just quickly, this status is coming back from JIRA, right?
Yes,
on the
we
bugs.
get those data from JIRA simultaneously, so our tool can only run as fast as JIRA can provide information.
And push it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So here, I call it the Hall of Fame. So those are the completed or closed bugs. So this is how we see those information coming from JIRA. And then last one is our bug data report. So as you can see here, starting, let's take a look from the beginning of last year. So the green one, the green line is the total number of the bugs we filed in each quarter. And then the blue one is the linguistic issues we have found. And then yellow is functional, and the red one is internationalization issues. So as you can see, we still find the majority of the bugs linguistic, and a lot of functional, and some internationalization issues. Okay, I'm going back to my dashboard. Any questions about the dashboard before I move on? Okay. So in the old days, we use devices, computers, Excel sheet, JIRA, and many, many more to manage and do LQA testing. Now everything is on the dashboard. And because the dashboard makes the LQA testing and management much more efficient and scalable. And so much so, we have reduced the testing cost by 75%. As you can see here in this graph, the baseline started here. When we started investing in automation, we actually saw a dip or the increase of the cost because we need to build the testing execution platform. We need to set up the team. We need to invest in a lot of development work. So our spending increased quite a lot. So the blue one shows the testing cost, and then the green one is the development cost. Over the course of a year, we started seeing the cost reduced, and then now in 2017 Q3, the number turned black. And today, we have saved 75% in the total testing cost. So that is the return on investment of doing the testing automation, or create the dashboard and then generate the screenshot in an automatic way, as well as we also automate a lot of workflows and steps to make the process even more streamlined and more effective. So in short, our dashboard provides visibility, improve collaboration, and provide better data quality for our LQA team and L10N team. And without the automation, without all those work from our engineers, our LQA leads, and our developer, we cannot make this happen. So I wanted to use this opportunity to thank them for all their great work and then the dedication to the LQA, L10N team. I wanted to thank you for all the good work they have put in.
Hello, my name is Olga, and I work in Moravia. Moravia is a language service provider. I work in Moravia testing facility in Monterey, here like a couple of hours from here. And basically some of our clients still generate screenshots manually, so I think I should have brought them to your presentation today.
Yeah.
That would save them a lot of money.
Yeah, for the long run. But as you saw earlier, for the entire year, we actually increased the spending because of the testing cost plus the development. But we had a plan. We knew the automation would work, and then we continued to invest in the development. And then after a year, we saw the testing cost has reduced dramatically. And then we have data to show that it actually works. Just by manually doing the screenshot taking on your device or over your desktop versus having generated automatically, I think it's very evident that automation works. But it takes time because of the development work, because of the investigation required to get all the data in place in order to set up the automation and then the framework in a proper way.
So maybe smart clients will use your strategy.
So. Yeah, I hope so.
And I have a question about testers, actually, because so you mentioned your testing team is in Cambridge, right? Yes. So we have seen that there are a lot of linguistic bugs that they file. And what is their profile? Because originally the translation is completed by professional translators with degree and experience, but then testers, some of them may not be professional translators, but they still challenge professional translators. So you've mentioned that that they are trained by your in-house specialists, but overall, what would you say about their profile? Like, what are their qualifications, and like, what are the people you're looking for as testers?
The testers, I wouldn't say they are the same as our in-house language specialists. They have their linguistic background and expertise, but I wouldn't put them on the same bucket as our in-house language specialists. The reason we have testers to do the LQA instead of our in-house language specialists is our in-house language specialist has more important work to do, all different tasks. And the most important thing is when we do translation and review in SDL Word Server, we know the limitation of the tool. We cannot see translation in context. And a lot of issues are coming from reviewing or translating out of context. So that's why we need to have an environment or the way to see what our users see in order to improve the language quality. So that's why we have the tester to do this double check on how does translation look like in the actual environment where our user sees.
Okay, thank you.
Closer.
Yeah, just a follow-up question on that. If I'm not mistaken, you were talking about the testers actually going to World Server to make updates.
Yes.
Are they the ones in charge to actually implement the updates?
Yes, they do.
And are the bug reports vetted by the in-house language specialists before they do that?
Yes. So in that review page, we have a column says from the testers. We also have a column dedicated for our in-house language specialists and international content managers. So as I said, the dashboard is a forum to allow collaboration. So once our testers finished review file bugs, they will be able to have this project move to our language specialist and the international content manager. They will be able to verify the screenshots to see if anything are missing, or to verify if the bugs are filed correctly. And then if the updates they wanted to make, it's correct or not. So we have a system which can vet all the changes needs to be made by our testers.
Hi, I'm Mike McKenna from PayPal over here.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite hear, how many languages are you supporting? And second question is, have you considered pseudo-localization? And if so, why or why not are you using it?
We have currently supported 14 languages, and we are doing pseudo-localization. We are investigating how to use the dashboard to run pseudo-localization and then identify the issues when we generate screenshots. But this one is still a work in progress, because we wanted to do that automatically, where we can implement the pseudo-localization with our dashboard. So it requires some development work before we can push that to production. So it's a work in progress.
Hello. I wanted to thank you for including the last slide about the ROI, because that was what I was thinking throughout the presentation. How could you explain the cost of developing such what I assume is an expensive tool?
Mm-hmm.
So my questions are: did you expect a 75% reduction in the testing cost before developing this? And what data do you rely on to convince eBay to invest in developing such what I assume was an expensive tool?
What was the first question? I got caught up by the second.
So the first question was, did you expect a 75% reduction?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't. I was hoping like 50%, because based on the data I had, 45% of the screenshot taking time, 45% of screenshot taking related activities carried out by our LQA tester, our LQA leads, versus some of the automated workflows. So I was thinking maybe 50%, 45%. But actually, after I continued to gather the cost of doing the testings, doing the developments, and then the number of the test cases we have been supporting, because the number continued to go up, and then it brought down the actual cost per test case. So that's how we see the significant drop of the testing costs. So it means, in another way, I think having automation allow us to scale up. We will be able to, there's the saving coming from, we still spend the same amount of money on the testing, on the development, pretty much. But because the number of the projects we are supporting continue to go up and up and up, so in comparison, the cost of testing dropped dramatically, because we were able to scale up and then become more effective and then productive.
Thank you.
My question is, have you ever considered open source this tool? Seems like all other companies might benefit from it as well.
But it's an internal build system and tools. Unless you wanted to be our third-party vendor and then put you through the firewall. No, it's just kidding. No, yeah. But that's why we are here. We are happy to share our experience, our best practices with you. And hopefully by utilizing the automation, we can all use our time and effort in a more meaningful ways, not just doing the copy and pasting and then transfer information from here to there using this and that tools.
I have a question here.
Okay.
So earlier, Natalia, she went to Meet to talk about how the QA goes in eBay, and then she actually talked about how she packed up all the screenshots and sent to local countries. Let's say she's from Russia, so she said from there they have a group of people so checking all the qualities of this translation. So I'm wondering, do you have this kind of same thing for different languages, that you assign a lead for different languages, and then just for the people from those local countries to check on the quality of the translation? Or does I have all of the content here, and then what's the next step for this?
We have a testing team in Cambridge. So in the old days, we took screenshots and then we zip them and then we put it in somewhere, a drive, so they could access and then do the testing. But since we have the dashboard, they have the access to our firewall. All they have to do is to log on to the dashboard, and then they will be able to review the content and then circle the issues and then file bugs through the dashboard without doing anything else, without going to different tools or different systems within eBay. So it's our one-stop shop for the LQA.
Great, thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm a student from MIS, and I have 2 questions. So you mentioned ROI, and I was really impressed by the ROI you were able to achieve. But in the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that one of your goals was also to speed up the process. So not only the cost, but also time spent on the process. So I was wondering if you have looked at the data on time spent on. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then my second question was, linguistic quality assurance is really important, and streamlining the LQA process is important, but I thought maybe doing some more stuff upstream, for example, in the translation phase, to ensure quality assurance from that process is also a really good way to ensure linguistic quality. So I was curious to know if there was any demand from translation team or other parts of the localization process that wanted to do something to improve quality assurance. For example, sometimes in the translation workbench, some TMS offers screenshot of the actual context. So anything like that has even been discussed in eBay? I was just curious to know.
Yeah, I was a language specialist at eBay many long time ago. At that time, there has always been a talk or a request to be able to see context while translation. And unfortunately, SDL Workbench, SDL World Server hasn't been able to do that because we have a lot of dynamic content. It's very difficult to generate screenshots and then view translation in context because of our file structure and etc. And many years later, now we have different TMS, and we are also looking at those solutions, right, Marcel? Do you want to comment on that? Marcel is our engineer manager, so his team is responsible for making that happen.
A lot of the problem is to make screenshots, you need to have access to running code and all the processes. That simply wasn't there. So we would go to a repository where people were checking content, but it didn't give us access to any kind of staging builds where we would go in and take screenshots. Now that we're working more in the agile model, we have a closer contact with the individual teams, so it's much easier to establish that relationship and say, well, how can we get to your staging service and actually see, and we're also better able to monitor their code and content in GitHub, and that's also a part of the relationship between the strings that are being translated and the testing being done, because we can pull them out and process them in the LQA process. In general, though, it's a big problem is timing, because it's agile, right? So these strings that we're translating, they were created yesterday. So it will be almost impossible to have screenshots ready at the translation time, and that in general is a problem, because LQA is a little bit later on. There's this window of opportunity to actually go in and capture these screenshots or set up the project update the scripts and stuff so that you can have, at least in the LQA phase, the screenshots available.
I think in the ideal world, it's best that the translators can do in-context review and translation. But in today's technology, this is still not possible yet. But who knows, a few years down the line, LQA team will be gone because we have this new tool available. But who knows? But definitely that it's a very, I would say, in terms of quality, in terms of efficiency, time to market, having a tool or a system which will allow translators and reviewers to do in-context translation and review is the best way to go. Yeah.
In fact, there's always goal for 2019 is to have the translations checked and verified before they're even done.
Hi, so I have a question on the tools that you're using. So you have mentioned this already, this new tool that you're developed for the automation, and then you also mentioned JIRA and Word Server. So I'm just a little bit confused on how do you incorporate the three tools together for the task and the whole project?
Currently, we haven't incorporated Word Server into the dashboard yet. That's something Marcel and I, we need to work on. But the JIRA, we make the API call, and so that's why the dashboard can directly talk to JIRA and pull and push information between those two systems. So that's a development work done between our dashboard and then the JIRA. Yes, JIRA and the dashboard are connected. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. So I have a question about Word Server. Like, since you mentioned that there are some limitations of Word Server, and then you still can incorporate the Word Server with your current systems. So why do you guys choose Word Server as one of your main tool?
We have, I wouldn't say we have a plan. That would be ideal to connect dashboard with Word Server. But we don't know how the direction of the TMS system is going to go. So that part haven't been decided. And then also currently we are focusing on different development areas instead of focusing on the connection between the dashboard and the Word Server. So we are not considering that now. And then the reason why we selected Word Server, it was selected 15, 16 years ago after a very intensive RFI. So I'm not sure how it was decided. That was
yes, that's not a recent decision. We've been using Word Server for 15 years. And some of the shortcomings that Zoe was referring to was that it doesn't have an ability to show screenshots within the translation. But since we don't even have those screenshots yet during translation, the limitation is not quite a huge limitation.
So, I mean, like, since now you are aware of those problems, are you going to, or are you planning to look into other TMS?
That's outside of the LQA domains. Yeah, it's under the L10N. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question about over here about the screenshot tool. You said that. Do you know if this is using like actual devices that are running the app, or if you use some kind of simulator, or emulator, or virtual machines?
We have a system, we have a database called M3. And then in this M3, we have a lot of servers. And those servers run with virtual machine VMs. And then those virtual machine has a device farm. So they talk to those devices using those simulators and then get the screenshots from there through our testing execution platform.
And so how do you handle like different screen sizes and different screen orientations?
This question, I will have to refer to our developers. So Kimo, where is Kimo? ran away.
You saw this question coming and ran away.
Yeah. So can Carlos, would you be able to answer the question? How the screenshot has been resized?
So this is Carlos, one of the LQA leads.
Yes, Carlos is one of our LQA leads.
That's what he's been referring to, and he's here helping. But he was supposed to do microphone duty.
Depending on the project, for site, we define the size of the screenshot. Like in TestRail, we define the case. So we highlight to the developer what the strings we want to get in the review. So then they take the screenshot with that resolution. And then for native app, for the devices, we have defined one Android device that is the most generic or the most common for eBay. And then for iOS, we use iPhone 6. So supposedly, if it fits in iPhone 6, it will fit on the rest. Yeah, but the problem is that the developers, they're not going to fix it. Like if it's like a iOS, if it's smaller than iPhone 6, the amount of people that they have that device is small, so they don't want to invest money on that. Like usually we get a lot of truncations cut because of that. Then you go for the most common device.
We have time for just a couple more questions. And this lady, there we go.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. So I have a question. So I know for eBay, there's so much content handled by machine translation, like item description, like and titles. So that's a huge amount of content. So do you also do LQA for that kind of content? And if you do you use the same workflow and dashboard?
We do LQA for the machine translated content, but it belongs to Jose's team. And then Jose's team does LQA, so I will let Jose answer that question.
Yes, we do LQA for machine translation. I have a presentation on that. For machine translation, by now everybody knows what we do with machine translation at TV, right? We translate the listings, which is the item descriptions, the item titles, and so we do LQA for the in production item titles, item descriptions, and queries that cause a problem. Okay, so it's huge volumes, massive, millions of words, thousands of queries. So we have to focus on the most problematic ones. So for queries is the top queries, the most popular ones that we can collect thanks to our metrics. And for item titles is the, for instance, the offensive mistranslations, profanities and things like that. We have very long and complete lists of profanities in many languages, which we could open source probably. And well, this is a brief overview of the LQA we do for MT. But as I said, we do have a presentation on that. I think it's even online. So let me know, I can send you the link.
Mine's a plug. I just want to comment because we're leaving people with the impression that there aren't tools that exist that do screenshot automation and provide some of the project management capabilities. You chose not to look into the marketplace for those tools, but there are tools on the market. And if you're interested, then send me an email. I'll send you a couple of suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to do that. Text and catch me. You can go through IMUG too.
He's texting on the IMUGs or I18N guy, right? Yeah, I18nguy.com.
So 2 more questions?
Yeah.
One right here.
One right
here. Hello, Zoe. Thank you for your presentation. And I wonder, are there some back and forth for some challenging task between people who carry out the testing and people who assign it? Because I see that you can like leave some comments when you create the project. So can you receive some feedback in this dashboard from the testing people?
Are you referring to the challenges between the testers and our in-house language specialist, or the questions or the problems between the people who request project versus the LQA team?
Actually, it's about all parties who use this dashboard.
Okay. Sometimes there are disagreements between the testers and the language specialists, or even our international content managers. But we are here to provide the better user experience to the eBay global users. So with that in mind, whatever achieves that goal, then we will have to go for that solution. So that's the gist of that. But in general, our international content managers or our in-house language specialists has final say on that, on the language quality. Yeah, in general, yes.
So when the decision is made, is it a channel in this dashboard for people to like express their opinions, like to communicate with other parties?
Yes, so that the field, a field in the dashboard has that area they can enter their comments and feedback. And of course, besides that, we also have like Skype, we have texting, we can use all other tools to facilitate the discussion or phone call, whatever. So that tool is a centralized place. We can share the information and then pass down data to one party to another in an automatic way. But it's not the only way that we can facilitate the collaboration and then the data sharing. But it's the best way for now. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Okay, one more question before we wrap it up. Okay. Okay, last one.
Over here.
Over here.
Hi. So I was wondering if you have any like QA teams in general, not LQA. If you do have QA teams for different like feature teams, do you have any synergies between the QA teams and LQA teams? For example, if they have already spotted some functional issues, if it's already been reported, there's no point for the linguistic testers to report it again. And for example, like for English screenshots, if they already like spotted some truncation issues or things like that, they can kind of have the first round of QA testing. So I was wondering if there's any synergy between the two teams.
Sure. We do work with individual QA team or QE teams to do the feature testing because eBay is running the agile methodologies. So we work with those vertical domain teams, and then we work with their QA, QE teams directly to get the testing information and to get the conditions or user IDs and password to run the test case automation. But in general, our QA or QE teams, they do QA only on English. And a lot of issues related to truncation or text expansion or wrapping are coming from a lot of translations of languages are longer than the English, which they show fine in English screenshots, but once they have been translated and then the design of the page cannot accommodate the expanded text, and then it makes those translation truncated, hence the functional issues. So that's what happened. And then also another one is since they don't run translated, they don't run QA in the translated content. That's why we come into place to take over and then test those translated content or functionalities in different languages. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So that will be all for today. Thank you for coming.